Hello, fifth graders, it's Mrs. Trombley, and today we're going to learn about how to simplify fractions. I know we've been talking about it quite a bit in class and you've seen kind of some introductions to it, but we're going to get these notes on paper today and do some practice to make sure you know how to write all of your fractions in simplest form from here on out. To start off, you should remember the definition of equivalent fractions, and those are fractions that represent the same value. We spent a lot of time in our first unit looking at those fraction bar diagrams, following down, seeing which fractions take up the same amount of space to identify equivalent fractions. Well, when you're simplifying a fraction, you're making an equivalent fraction. And you're doing that by dividing the numerator and the denominator of the fraction by the same exact number. We saw in great detail that to create equivalent fractions, you can multiply the numerator and denominator by the same digit, or you can divide the numerator and denominator by the same digit. So when you simplify, you're not really changing the size of it, you're just making fewer but larger parts. So I have a little visual example here for you. I'm hoping that you're seeing that these whole rectangles are the same exact size, and in this one, if I said what fraction is represented by the shaded portion of this picture, you would say, okay, well, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces shaded. So 5/10 would be the fraction to represent this picture. But in this picture here, we can see that 1 out of 2 pieces are shaded. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but this is actually the same size. This is the same amount right here that's shaded. And this one is represented by 5/10 because the whole is cut up into 10. And in this one, it's represented by 1/2 because it's only cut up into 2 pieces. Now, if I just wanted to have one piece here, like this, instead of 5 pieces, I could divide that by 5, right? Isn't 5 divided by 5 1? So if you take 5 divided by 5, that's where you get your 1 in the 1/2. And then we need to do the same exact thing to this 10 because we're also taking this other little piece and dividing that by 5 because we want this to just be one section. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So when I say to simplify a fraction, you can divide your numerator and denominator by the same thing, we can see that that's true. 5/10 is in fact equal to 1/2. All right. So a fraction is in simplest form if the top and bottom have no common factors other than 1. So in other words, you can't divide the top and bottom by anything else and still have it be whole numbers. Once you get down to it's just 1. So the fastest way to write a fraction in simplest form is to divide both the numerator and the denominator by their greatest common factor, which we usually call the GCF. The greatest common factor is the largest number that can divide evenly into the 2 other numbers that are there. So that's what it says up here. If there's no common factors other than 1, that means you found the GCF. So I have try it. Let's write each fraction in simplest form. And basically all you have to do to write fractions in simplest form is, number 1, you find the greatest common factor. And the second thing you do is you divide both the numerator and denominator by that GCF. All right, so I think we'll start off making a little list, and I won't have you do this for every single one long term, but right now as we're learning, I feel like it really is helpful. So let's list out the factors of each of these and then identify the greatest one. So for 7, and you can look at factors as numbers you multiply together to get a product, right? But we understand the inverse relationship between multiplication and division. So you can also look at it as numbers that divide into 7 without anything left over, okay? So I usually like to just start with 1 because 1 works for every single one of them, right? 1 divides into 7 evenly without any remainders, right? So I know that for 7, a factor of 7 is 1. Now, will 2 divide into 7 evenly? No, 7 is odd, so it won't. Will 3? No, 7 divided by 3, I'd have a remainder. 4 won't work, 5 won't work, 6 won't work, but 7 will. So the only factors of 7 are 1 and 7. Now we're going to do the same thing with 21. We know that 1 will go into 21. And maybe you're thinking, well, wait, I know that 3 times 7 is 21. Yeah, so you can look at it like that. 3 times 7 is 21, so 3 and 7 are both factors of 21. Or you could also look at it as 3 will divide into 21 without a remainder, and so will 7. There's one more that will divide into 21 without a remainder. You don't want to forget about this one itself. 21 will divide into 21. All right, so now these are the factors. These are the factors of 7, these are the factors of 21. The greatest common factor is the largest number that they have in common, which in this case is 7. So to simplify 7 over 21, you would divide both the numerator and the denominator by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 21 divided by 7 is 3. And so instead of saying 7 over 21, you can say 1/3. Those are equivalent. They take up the same amount of space out of the whole, but 1/3 is cut up into the fewest number of pieces. These pieces will be larger than those, but they take up the same amount of space. All right, let's try it for 9/15. Numbers that divide into 9. Well, I know that 1 divides into 9. 2 does not. 3 does. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 4 does not work. 5 does not work. Yeah, it doesn't end in a 0 or 5. 6 will not divide into 9 evenly. 7, 8, it looks like 9 is our last one. So 1, 3, and 9 are the factors of 9. For 15, I know it's 1. And maybe you're thinking, well, I know 3 times 5 is 15. Yep, 3 divides into 15. 5 divides into 15. And 6, I know 6 times 2 is 12, so it won't work. 7 times 2 is 14. Nope. 8, that would be 16, so too big. So I think 15 is our last one. All right, so when I look at this, I see that the largest factor that they have in common is 3. So in order to simplify 9/15, I'm going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 3. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And 3/5 is it. Now I know that 3/5 is simplest form because 3 and 5 don't have a common factor other than 1. 1 is the only number that would divide into 3 and into 5. And that's how we know that it's in simplest form. All right, last one. Maybe you want to pause and try this one on your own. And if you don't, that's okay. Just make sure you're watching, following along. You'll get it. All right, 16/20. Okay, so 1 will divide into 16. And 2 will. I know I can count by 2s 8 times to get to 16. I can't count by 3 to get to 16. I can count by 3 to get to 15, but that's not what we're looking for. I can count by 4 to get to 16. So that means that 4 is a factor of 16. And I can't count by 5 to get to 16. I can't count by 6 or 7, but 8, I can count by 8 twice to get to 16. And when you have an even number, once you're halfway there, the next factor is just going to be itself. We won't have anything in between. All right, now for 20, I know that 1 will divide into 20. I can count by 2s and get to 20. I can't count by 3s and get to 20. I can count by 4 to get to 20. 5 times. 4 and 5 are both factors of 20. They will both divide evenly into 20 without a remainder. I can also multiply them together to get 20. I can't count by 6 to get to 20, or 7, or 8, or 9, but I can count by 10. 10 times 2 is 20. And now I'm halfway there, right? So my next factor is going to be the number itself. All right, now in looking at these, they have lots of numbers in common. The largest number that they have in common is 4. So that is the greatest common factor. So in order to simplify 16/20, I can divide them both by 4. And 16 divided by 4 is 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And so 4/5 would be the simplest form of 16/20. Again, these are equivalent. They don't represent a different amount. Just when you look at them, these pieces will be larger than those. So they represent the same amount of space. All right, you can go ahead and take this paper and maybe trim around it and put it into your math spiral. And I'll see you soon. Thanks so much for watching.